Coming to you live from the WDWNT studios in Orlando, Florida, this is ParksCenter. Hello there, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of ParksCenter. We're recording this a little bit early on Sunday during Reflections of Forever so that we can record this live in studio. And joining me here live for the first time ever on ParksCenter, we have Courtney.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
We got Nathan.
Kungaloosh, everybody.
Yeah. Oh, you got an actual mug and you.
Oh, yeah, Kungaloosh. Skyliner Loosh.
And we've got Allison.
In honor of Pete, since he's at a wedding, Sivako.
Come on! Hey.
All right, well, let's kick things off with our first topic, which is going to be a bit of a doozy. Let's talk Skyliner, because I think most of us rode this today, right?
Mm-hmm.
All of
yeah.
All of it.
This is on Sunday, so it's opening day for the Skyliner at this point. What do people think of this?
I was pleasantly surprised. I don't know. The ventilation was more than I expected. I don't know about you guys. There was one little section that we didn't get the cross breeze as much, and it did definitely get warm. I did not get stopped, though.
Oh, yeah. No, we got stopped for like 3.5 minutes. Ben and I were in there and just like...
I think we were behind you.
Yeah, I was running like my phone the whole time, recording everything. But we had a great time in that. I mean, like as we were heading to the turn, we started yelling, turn, turn, turn. It was just like, luckily there was just like me and Ben and Jake was the other guy in there?
I think that's right, yeah.
Yeah, and the three of us were just in there just like acting a fool. But it was
Yeah.
it was pretty fun. As a matter of fact, I was saying earlier today that I feel like this is like Disney just added a new ride, and like I didn't even think about it until we were on it. It's like there's so much new about it. There's a new station, or the new stations, new places I've never been, and there's like it's a new ride, and it's.
I mean, there are certain views where when you see them, what you don't you go, oh, there's Hollywood Studios and there's Epcot, and like you're just high enough where you start to realize how close certain things are.
Yeah.
Or like, is that American Adventure? That's American. Like it's weird to see stuff in a different angle than you're usually allowed to. So yeah, that was interesting as well. I think we got stopped. There was a bit of, it gets hot. It does. There's no way around the fact that it doesn't get hot in those
But it's
things.
not. But it's a super hot day though. Like we were walking from Epcot to the yacht club, and as we were walking, I didn't realize how extremely hot it was today, and I didn't really feel that in the Skyliner even when we were stopped, like that kind of heat.
But it's fun. I mean, when you lift up and then when you go down, especially when you come into Epcot, I think it's because you make that turn and you gain momentum or something. We just like came in and we're swinging a little bit, and I was like, hands up, like here we go.
And that's just like the Skyway.
Yes.
It adds that element to it, and it beyond that, even from the ground, because I haven't gotten to ride it yet. But it adds something interesting. My baby's looking at it, like pointing at it.
I called it kinetic energy.
Kinetic
energy. That's a lot of that.
100%. And it has a vintage feel to them, but they're modern and they're moving quickly, so it is a viable means of transportation.
It definitely makes you feel more connected to everything. I feel like it reminds you, and it's a good marketing tool too, to remind people like, hey, you're at your resort right now, but you could be having fun in the parks. Just hop right on and like ride in, you know.
And so here's something though that happened with me is I was at PopCenter this morning, and I went to the gondolas, got on, rode over to the main station at Caribbean Beach, and then over to Studios in like 14 minutes tops. Whereas if I were to drive, I would drive in, I'd have to park, I'd have to get on a tram, I'd have to go to the front gate, and that would have taken forever. Or if I was taking a bus, I'd have to wait. So like just the speed to get there, as long as it doesn't start getting like backlogged. Like
the Caribbean hub was pretty rough when we went through it.
Yeah, it's like Grand Central Station.
And I don't know if that's day one stuff or it's going to be like it kind of swells in the day. But there were moments where I was like, well, you have tape on the ground. Like, were you not expecting?
Well, they were blocking the bathrooms.
They were blocking the bathrooms.
With the line,
my wife had to
sort
of like, she asked a cast member like, so what's the procedure to get to the bathroom? She goes, oh, just cut through. And I'm like, all right. I guess
I think it says that on the sign. If you need to get to the bathroom, just cut through.
Yeah.
It's official.
Or-
but I mean, they have
right.
restrooms. They have the Joffrey's Coffee down there.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about it being like Grand Central Station, it kind of is. I mean, there's
literally
like,
a clock.
Yeah,
Like a big
there's-
clock
exactly.
with 4 like
Right.
Yeah.
So and that I wasn't expecting that either. I wasn't expecting that to be sort of like a destination. I was expecting that to just be like a quick thing where you just get on and off.
Yeah.
But again, this morning I landed. So my plane got in, and then I went over and got back on the one to go to the studios, and there was nothing. And it was like even the first one to pop, they were like, "How many?" And I said 1, and they were like, "There it is. Here you go." And then when we went from there to studios, it was like me and 3 people I didn't know. But you get to know them real fast when it's like you're sitting in the sky, in the box by
And
yourself.
staring awkwardly at each other.
Right.
And
I literally took a selfie with these 3 guys because I'm just like, you know what? Let's be these friends. And they were talking about it, but everybody has their phones up the whole time and taking in the views. So I mean, overall, I'm excited about it.
The views are tough. A lot of because of the wraps on them, you sort of have some issues. There's always a filter in between you, and they're really fun to look at from the outside, and weirdly they take away from the experience from the inside. So we ended up looking a lot out of the door because the door has no wrap and you could see kind of unobscured. So that was one of those things where I thought, well, it would have been nice if it was a little easier to take really pretty photos from here.
Okay, let me tell you this though. Let me ask you. You read it, right?
Yeah.
What was the first car you got in? Were you thinking that?
Unwrapped.
Oh, it was
we
unwrapped.
only had one wrapped car, luckily.
Oh, okay.
We were in unwrapped the whole rest of the time. And in our last trip, we did have 10 people in the gondola.
Wow.
And it really wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I can
spacious.
see it would be a little bit easier if a few of the 10 were like toddlers or kids.
Right.
But I don't know.
So here's why I asked that is like I was thinking it was going to be pretty special. This is my first one. Like I want to remember this forever. And the first one I got in, the theme was yellow. Like it was like yours, it wasn't wrapped. Now it's like a lose-win because I didn't have something special about it, but I didn't have the sticker, and I could get like video and pictures out of the front. So
that is-
I mean, I wanted to which one's it going to be? Like I want to remember this forever. It's yellow. Like that was the
yellow
theme
one.
of the one, and then the next one I got in, different line, also yellow,
Hey.
also nothing wrapped. So the first themed one I got in was the Pete one. So, but it was
Not Pete Carney, but
Yeah.
no, it's a Zivaco on the side.
Gotta get home and design that.
It was 2 minutes
Carney's
later than all the rest of them. It was absolutely. It was on its way to Jelly Rolls.
That's the Jelly Roll sign. I like that. So another bit about this, we found some pictures of the emergency supply case inside of the gondolas.
which are open.
Which-
They're available for you to open and look at. I think people feel like, oh, is this something that has a do not open sign or whatever? But when we were on it, we didn't see any. We didn't see anything that suggested that this was not something that you could look at. It's for use.
Right.
If you need it for emergencies. So.
But just so that folks are kind of aware of what is in here, we've got a light stick, we've got a notepad, presumably something to write with as well. We've got some water that's been pouched up in there in case you need that, and also some waste disposal bags. Those are
There they are on the
I
right.
guess if you're stuck there for too long and bobbing around in the wind, you might get a little seasick if you weren't expecting that. So
I love the notepad.
The notepad's my favorite.
the notepad's pretty great. 'Cause I had
It's
the
like
same
it's been
situation
4 days since I've seen anything other than this view.
I like the glow stick because you can buy those at the H2O glow nights.
Oh my gosh.
I do. It's clear when you're riding it that they're prepared for evacuations, which is both reassuring and disconcerting at the same time.
Yeah.
But like the roads all underneath were graveled for if they need an emergency vehicle.
Yeah.
The ones over the waters are very low and near the water, which if they needed to bring an emergency boat out wouldn't be that difficult. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of a nice thought of like, oh, there's their hair. And they're just right underneath the seat and available for problems. The notepad, I always thought like either you're going to open it and like write like help on the side and put it up, or you're going to like open it and there's just like because of the inconvenience, here's all the Disney princesses autographs. Like, there's just all characters.
Isn't it weird though that all of us are talking about while we were in it, we were thinking of escape. Like while we were in it, we were like, how if this breaks, how are they going to get us out? What is that saying? Is it saying we just don't have confidence in the fact that that it's going to be okay? I mean, they've been testing it for months, but like the idea of like,
I mean, how much time
we're
is spent in a
thinking-
gondola? You know?
Yeah,
Like,
well, but it's amazing. I mean, the views
Yeah,
are
it's awesome.
amazing. Everything's cool about it. But like the fact that everybody's story is, it's like I looked down and it's low enough for the for the water boat to get there. Or hey, we looked at the emergency kit to make sure we're not going to die in here. But I mean, it's not like that. It is like the old gondola ride that used to go from Tomorrowland into Fantasyland. So, but cooler and newer, and you get all these views. And the views are pros and cons though. Like you see things you probably like. What would Walt do? Kind of a thing. Like he would not want you to see this.
Right.
But at the same time, it's cool to see some of the things you do see, and like you talked about, the kinetic energy of the area.
I think big picture, to wrap it up too, as they make more and more restrictions on driving and try to dissuade you from driving, I'm glad to see that they're actually investing in getting you around and investing in a way that gets you there faster, which I hadn't thought about.
yeah.
As opposed to the monorail system that they don't really seem to
And
be investing
greener.
much in, at least on this coast.
Did you guys rehearse that transition?
Yeah, you gotta transition.
No, that was off the cuff. What do you mean? So we did have a monorail lose power about a week ago at this point, and it was evacuated. It was kind of impressive. Like just the entire monorail, just in the middle. When was it about? It was clearly at night. Does anybody remember about when this happened during the day? Because I want to say it was like right after one of the shows let out. It was around 10:30.
Yeah.
Is there there's a timestamp on the bottom of
Yeah, I found it. It's about 10:30 according to the article. So that's crunch right there, and that's a major line of transportation that just went down. Like that's not good.
I feel like we hammer on this quite a bit, but there is one of those things where it's just like there is an interesting dichotomy between them opening a beautiful new mode of transportation, and at the same time being like, oh yeah, like there's just this like, it's like monorail goes into the station going like a cartoon. Well, the Skyliners is this fancy new thing. It's definitely the Woody to the Buzz now of the Skyliner. So they gotta do something. They understand that it's a lot of money, and I understand that too. But I don't know what you do at this point without fixing it. It's time.
Well, I mean, they did it in Japan. Let's throw that over to the other article here. New monorails are coming to Tokyo in 2020, and theirs are working fine now. I'm convinced somebody just signed the check to the wrong country here. This just doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
The Oriental Land Company has it going on. There's
They've
just
really
no way
do.
around it.
But see, I feel like there was a time where they said that there were funds reallocated for monorails. And I mean, we may have talked about this before, but that the Main Street Cinema funds were supposed to be reallocated for new monorails. And at that point, the gondola system was already in play, so it has nothing to do with that.
Right.
But it seems like that's and we've talked about this so much before. To me, the monorails represent Disney World, and it's
Sure.
your first entry, and as a little kid, your first thing is usually Magic Kingdom, and you want to be on the monorail and get there, and that's it's the thing you get excited about when you're talking about going to the Magic Kingdom. And the fact that we have all this sad stories over and over again about this broke, or we had to be evacuated, or this fell off.
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
Hey, Toy Story 4 wraps are not cheap.
Oh gosh.
But it feels like that's. I mean, I don't know anything about ordering a fleet of monorails, but I feel like this should have been a priority. And it's really sad that it's not. But to the point about Japan, theirs are not bad yet. But maybe we were just an example of let's not let that happen to us. Let's go ahead and get these new ones now.
And to play devil's advocate, in Japan, transportation, especially public transportation, is such a different monster. Yeah. People aren't as individualist there in terms of needing their own cars and everybody driving themselves. So I feel like for what the monorail is for us here, in terms of we almost see it as an attraction. I think they see it way more as a mode of transportation, and maybe it's just that way of thinking. And Disney needs to get into that mindset of the monorail is as important as a mode of transportation as it is an attraction.
Well, that's a good point, though. the bus systems have been updated how many times over the years versus how many times the monorails, right? And now they've been rewrapped with the Pluto and the Pandora and all those cool wraps and things that they're doing there. They're clearly spending money in transportation between that and gondolas.
I mean, I just went on a Skyliner that went over a lake. I'm just saying. Ferries can go underneath that for all I know. So, but there's no Disney World without a monorail, so that's sort of necessary. But heck, at this point, I'm like Skyliner.
Can you imagine?
Whatever, put them anywhere.
Can you imagine if they took down the monorail? I mean, it would
be chaos.
Yeah, I mean
a lot of things are set up for that exclusively.
Right, and the track, it would be like Disneyland and the whole People Mover track. I mean, it's just sitting there for no reason. I just can't imagine.
So what you're saying is
resort people would
put rocket rods on the WDW.
Yes,
track.
thank you. That's exactly what I was saying, and you figured it out. Perfect.
Suddenly, PopCenter is more expensive than Red Floridian.
Just let Elon Musk
upside down, and I don't know how to handle it.
Elon Musk.
But I kind of feel like I'm living in that world already because I've stopped getting on the monorail about 2 years ago, and I always take the boat, and it took me a long time to get there because it takes me a lot to go somewhere that doesn't have air conditioning for somewhere that does, but it just takes so long. They're just like clinkety.
Well, and to be honest, like the ferries have more air breeze at this point than monorails. So
and they don't smell.
Well, you know what? Getting us together did not make it a lot easier for us to stay on time.
Did it?
What a shock!
But moving on from there to I guess another mode of transportation, I suppose. Like it's
for goods rather than people.
Yeah. So we posted a story earlier this week that we then updated that it is not the case that Amazon Prime or Garden Grocer or anything like that is going to stop delivery to resort hotels. What is going to stop delivering to resort hotels are ECVs and wheelchairs and other stroller rental companies, which I believe we think at this point is mainly just a logistical problem. Just having the space for all those deliveries is just something that Disney was not prepared for, and so this is just something that they need to stop for logistical reasons at this point. Like I'm glad that we're still getting like the ability to Amazon Prime stuff to the rooms and stuff like that, because that's something I've definitely used before. Has anybody used the wheelchair rental services or wanted to use them or anything like that, or the strollers or anything?
I mean, after a long day at Epcot, I always want to use the wheelchair service, but.
And who's in charge? Is Disney responsible for making sure those are charged at all? Because I wonder that too. Like,
the rental ones.
Yeah, like if they receive an ECV and it's like not if it's dead or I don't know whose responsibility that would be.
Well, it's certainly Disney's power. It's their electric bill.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fair.
For all these ECVs that are being charged and they're not getting any rental costs for. So
Yeah.
I don't really know why you rent them. I mean, is it just a huge cost savings to rent them outside the parks, or because
overall.
Because I mean, I've seen them charging in the hallways at the boardwalk, like two of them lined up in the hallway and the cables going inside. I've never had to rent one, but it is when my parents were around and we tried to get them a wheelchair. It's hard to get to the front gate to rent them in the first place anyway, whether it's an ECV or a wheelchair. And so you have that long walk from the parking lot or the tram through security to get up there to where you finally get to rent something, right? So I assume that that's also a reason people have them delivered, is so they can be using them from the beginning to get to where they need to be. So.
I'm shocked Disney hasn't figured this out yet, in the sense of like, so what you're saying is if we made like a car, you know how they have the ParksCenter area and they have these different like spots, right? And it didn't have to be connected to a single one, but if it was like when you get on property, you go to the EVC rental like building, you get your thing, right, or you fill out the information and then we'll get you one to wherever you want to go first or whatever, right? Like there are ways that they could pull this off where you could have a full resort ECV opposed to, which it normally is, right, land per land.
Yeah.
Or not land per land. Can you
park
imagine?
per park.
Oh, you're out of Tomorrowland, you got to buy one in Frontierland too.
Well, that's park by park for Tomorrowland.
Yeah.
We don't want to break the immersion.
So park by park. So I think I'm shocked that this is not a price point that they've realized, oh, that's right, we could fuel rod ECVs.
Oh my god.
And you can pick them up and drop them off wherever you're at and get a new one and go,
like bird scooters.
Yeah.
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 They just don't want to make it easier for people to get ECVs. This is for sure.
I mean, I can,
Yeah,
I
that's
can
true,
kind of
too.
support that a little bit. Like, I think there are too many of them in the parks right now. I mean, if you need them for medical reasons, I do have no grudge against you, but there are people that don't.
Yeah.
And I know people personally who didn't and got. I'm okay with making it a little bit harder for the folks who don't need them.
But the flip side is I don't want it to be harder for people who really do
That's-
need
yeah,
them.
that's
And
the
so
other problem with this stuff.
There's just like no
Winning.
There's no win.
no winning, no win situation.
Yeah.
Well, something that I hopefully will be a bit more of a win than that is we now have the Mickey Shorts Theater, which is going to be taking over Star Wars Path of the Jedi. This seems like, I guess, a really low floor to beat.
You think? Yeah, there's a lot of people. The shirts are coming out for Path of the Jedi already.
Oh yeah, you know, right? Yeah.
Path closed.
No, it just leads right into Batu now.
Yeah, right.
No,
Just
it's-
path is
follow-
that way.
It's open.
Follow the line.
So many times on the show we say things like, "Well, there was nothing there before, and now there's something," and that's like there's the floor,
Yeah.
and this is like the micro step above that. Where we're like, there was something there before, now there's. It's almost something also. It's a little more almost something than the thing that was there before.
My joke has been that management is sitting around going, I don't understand. We opened half a land, we have hula hoops, took away some of the dance parties, but we're now giving a Mickey Shorts you can watch on YouTube. I don't know why people aren't coming. Like, this sounds great.
I do wonder if they took like a demographic and a lot of people didn't know the new Mickeys.
That's possible.
So they're trying to like, with the new railway coming out, like, hey, this is what this really like strange animation that you're probably not used to.
Get
is
used to
from.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that when you've got an empty theater there, though, it just seems ridiculous not to have something in it. And so when it became Path of the Jedi, even Path of the Jedi, I enjoyed going to see it, and it's one of those things where you go, well, you know what? It'd be nice to sit down for a minute. It's got air conditioning. Let's just like go in and take advantage of this. And I don't know how much it costs to staff that. But I don't know why you wouldn't keep it open all the time. Maybe I assume it's the staffing cost is the issue because it's not like the film needs performers or that. I mean, so it seems.
I imagine it runs on repeat almost.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
it's not even a person hitting the button. I would almost imagine.
What if you did it like the Main Street in California,
Yeah.
the Main Street Cinema, where you just had it on and people could meander in and watch stuff and meander out? I mean, I guess the problem would be if the place was too full. But I mean, this feels a lot like Epcot and the film festival.
The
that they
Pixar
have.
Film Festival. Well,
Yeah.
I have no issue with that though, because when you go to that film festival, it utilizes the space. It has the new lighting and it has some effects, and the seats sort of move a little bit still. And you feel like, okay, I can't experience this anywhere else. This is the only theater that can do this. This Magic Eye Theater. Whereas the shorts, it's like,
Yeah.
Wouldn't it have been cool if they could have integrated the technology from Sounds Dangerous into a new Mickey short that they made that was like
cute.
based off of different sounds? And
Yeah.
I don't know.
That would be so neat. Oh my gosh, I would love that.
Yeah, I mean, I miss Sounds Dangerous and I miss Monster Sound Show because those were both shows. I mean, they were both something unique and special and about, I mean, at least Monster Sound Show was about the park. I agree. I think it's about introducing Mickey Mouse and also taking advantage of an empty space next to where the ride's going to be.
Yeah.
But I don't have a problem with it because I would rather it be something than be nothing.
Right.
But it just does seem a little bit random. Like
does that area have a merch exit at all? Is there any sort of, I can't remember.
it used to exit.
I live
into-
here.
It's
I don't
like
think I've been there forever.
It's outdoors, I think.
Well,
Right.
it exits into what used to be a sound lab type of a
Right,
thing,
right.
and then they replaced that with like Xboxes during like the
That's
Disney
right.
Infinity era.
Oh,
and
It's still there.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
So they could make that a
You
merch
can play
area?
Disney Infinity at Hollywood Studios right now.
Yeah.
Okay,
Which
so
is
let's
what
go.
you can't do
what
at
are
a
we doing
Walmart
here?
anymore.
But the idea that like they have that space out there, they could do something. They could do like a little Mickey Mouse museum. They could do something with with merch. In
Yeah,
there.
it's going to be
There's a
new,
space.
new Mickey merch, new character design merch, I
Yeah,
think. would
because
be-
other than that, the closest merch space is at the space where the Frozen merch is, right? Because it kind of shares an area with the exit to the Frozen sing along.
Right. Does Runaway Railway, will that have a merch exit?
No,
I
They're-
don't know.
Oh, yeah,
about
I didn't
that,
think
honestly.
about that.
I haven't
Almost
thought about it.
certainly.
Probably,
Great
why
movie
would-
ride didn't.
Even
Great
if it's
movie
a-
I didn't, so that's why I'm
Yeah,
trying to figure
even
out
if
where to put
it's
it.
multiple carts.
Yeah. Well, that's. I mean, maybe this is like that substitute area for them.
The
At least.
sorcerer hat is coming back.
Oh boy.
No.
There are people who want that.
I know.
We're not doing
All 4 of them.
that. No. Gosh, it's. I guess speaking of more money grabs, if we're gonna put the hat shop back, like good grief, we've got more entertainment cuts because of course we do. Why wouldn't we?
Tis the season.
Yeah, well, it's always the season anymore.
Yeah, right.
So we've now got the Mariachi Cobre presents the story of Coco, ending at Epcot. I believe as of recording, it's gone.
But not the band, just so
Not
we're
the-
clear.
yeah.
Like, a lot of people freaked out and thought the whole, like,
That's fair.
mariachi band's leaving. No, just that show.
Yeah.
Is that a budget thing? You think?
They just never said when it was going to end. And
Okay.
so it's weird that I think that hit the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, like, there's cuts, and then this happens, and they're like, it's closing. And you're like, well, is it cuts or is it closing? So
Yeah.
it feels like cuts.
Yeah.
If they didn't want to cut it, they could have kept it.
Yeah.
Because there is no other Coco
I will walk that back slightly and say that it does seem like they are still performing and at a regular clip. At the bottom of this, we do have their schedule for October 5th, which is going to be Sunday through Thursday at 11, 11:45, 12:30, 1:15, 2, 3:30, and 4:15, which seems like a great busy day with some breaks thrown in. So that is probably good news for them. Mm-hmm. It is less good news for, I'm going to mispronounce, the Jameters.
Hey.
Jameters.
And Matsuria. Matsuriza. There we go. Which have been reduced to 5 days a week. So that is actually a reduction in hours.
And it feels like a
starting
phasing
today.
out.
What?
It feels like a phasing out to me. And the Jameters, like,
It really
that's
does.
something different from Matsuriza. Jameters is something that is was part of the zeitgeist in the late 90s, I think, and it's not there
Yeah.
anymore. I have a lot of nostalgia for it. I think it's an amazing show, and I think it still has that kinetic energy, but with sound, I think, that Nathan talks about. And so it's enjoyable, but without a replacement or something that they're putting in, now we're losing something that was good, even if it's outdated. That's really sad to me. And it's just more of like Epcot just dying.
Yeah. It's not a beer garden, so what are you going to do?
Yeah.
I'm more bummed about the Japanese pavilion in the sense that, like, and I don't know if they're going to phase that one out. I feel like that is pretty immersive and it's like an interesting thing, and no one else really does it. I can see why cutting it to 5 days a week. I don't like it, but I can see why, especially because I think and this might be, it's a stretch, but it might also be a thing where the performers, they're unique performers. There's only so many drummers that can do this. And they're like, hey, could we like have a break? Like, we don't know what their contract is and their desire to like adjust that. So that might be, I don't always want to just say it's all evil. Like, it could be something where these unique performers are making some adjustments for themselves.
They
but
could invest in more.
I don't
Taiko
disagree.
drummers.
Yeah,
So,
I don't
like, give
disagree.
the ones a break if that's what it is.
Yeah.
And they should be investing. I think that this comes on the heels of like 4 weeks ago. They're like, yeah, it's a little slower than we expected, and now there's all of a sudden these cuts or shrinking of the offerings. When really, when that happens, what you need to do is continue to invest, because that brings people and brings repeat people in. But that's not what they do.
Well, we had this conversation the other night that it seems like it's in any business, Q4 a lot of times is your adjustment period, because you're realizing that between now and the end of the year, you have to make your budget. And if you have to cut something, you can't cut maintenance back anymore, and you can't cut there are other things you cannot cut. Entertainment is a little bit easier to cut. I mean, it's one of those things that, unfortunately, even though I've said before, it makes it, the difference between Disney and Six Flags is that you've got those extra little things that happen. But it does make sense financially that if they are trying to make up a quarter, that this might be the way they do it. I hope that's not the case. I hope that there are different reasons. But I also think about the puppeteer thing. like we were talking about the Muppets, and we were talking about why Disney Junior Live went to video is because puppeteers were costing a lot more to have. So I mean, even though it's a marionette type of a thing, I assume that still qualifies as a puppeteer.
Yeah.
Is that the reason they're getting rid of that and still keeping the mariachi band though? I wonder if they're related at all. But I hate to see stuff leave. I know we feel like we had this conversation in the past, and then all of a sudden new offerings came up, but you know, it was a new fiscal year, so maybe we'll see this die down, and then next year we'll see new stuff happen.
I think to end it, I think Epcot in general, because of the transitionary phase it's in, you're going to see a lot of this stripping out and rethinking. So like, you know, do I think the Voices of Liberty are going to go away? No, I think that's a kind of a Dapper Dan standard of Epcot. But at the same time, I think there is these things where they're going to go, well, it's not really, you know, Jaminators aren't bringing them in. So Jaminators?
Yeah.
We were talking about that before. I always want to say Jaminators.
They're very
too.
like stomp.
They're stomp.
Yeah.
Right.
And it brings an energy, and I think a lot of us appreciate that energy, but it might not be
the energy they want
simpatico
now.
with the new energy.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll find out.
That is going to do it for this week, folks. Thank you all for joining us for the first time we've recorded in the same room. This is great. I'm loving this. We'll have to do this more often. If you folks want to come down and I guess check out next time we do a live show, we'll see if we can get an audience. If you want to come down for that, highly recommend you folks check out Never Grow Up Vacations, the official travel partner of WDWNT. They're an authorized Disney vacation planner whose focus is in making magic for their clients, and with over 20 years of experience booking Disney vacations, we're sure they can help you make your next trip even more magical. So head on over to wdwnt.travel to contact them about your next trip today. Thank you folks for checking this out. Unfortunately, due to logistical reasons, we can't have a post show for this. But we do normally have a post show after the show. For our WIGS members, it's what we refer to our patrons as. If you head over to patreon.com/WDWNT, for as little as $2 a month, you can become a WIGS member over there, help support the show and all the other shows that we put out, get access to our post show, the other post show for News Tonight, and a whole bunch of other stuff that we put out there. So I highly recommend that you go and check that out. That is patreon.com/WDWNT. Thank you folks for joining us, and we will see you all again next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Classic.
There we go.